Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira. Senior diplomats of India and Nepal on August 17th held a virtual meeting to review the progress made on various India-aided developmental projects being implemented in the Himalayan nation. The meeting came days after Nepal Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli telephoned Prime Minister Narendra Modi to greet him on India's 74th Independence Day in the first high-level contact after bilateral ties came under severe strain. According to the Indian Embassy in Kathmandu, India and Nepal held the 8th meeting of the oversight mechanism through digital video conferencing. The meeting carried out a comprehensive review of bilateral economic and development cooperation projects. In this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze the high-level talks between India and Nepal. Joining me on the program today are Manjeev Singh Puri, former ambassador, Shakti Sinha, foreign affairs expert and director, Delhi School of Public Policy and Governance, and Professor Tej Pratap Singh, International Politics, Banaras Hindu University. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. All right, Ambassador, let me start the program with you. So let's first understand what the oversight mechanism is and what were the key takeaways from the 8th meeting.
Frank, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank Rajya Sabha TV and you in particular for focusing on India's development partnership program. And let me just throw in something. Nepal is actually the starting point of India's development partnership way back in the 1950s. So it's a long history. Now, we have a large number of development projects in Nepal and also other projects which will contribute significantly to the Nepalese economy. Given a variety of reasons, in 2016, it was decided that there would be a mechanism which is essentially a meeting between the Indian Embassy and the government of Nepal to review these projects, look at any issues which are coming up and which can be resolved at that particular level. And this is the 8th such meeting which has taken place. The meeting has the Indian ambassador along with his various officers who look after it, and such projects as are represented in Nepal, their managers, etc. And on the Nepalese side, the Foreign Secretary of Nepal heads it. Now, the most important thing about this oversight mechanism meeting is that it brings the entire government of Nepal, which is involved with the execution of these partnership projects, on the same table. So the Foreign Secretary chairs the meeting, but high-level officials from all concerned ministries, departments and agencies of Nepal are present. Now, usually these meetings are held at an interval of about 6 months, but COVID has resulted in this not having been possible the last several months. And so they did what was the best possible, which was to have a meeting using virtual technology online. I believe this meeting was very important. You know, I come from the field of diplomacy. As far as I am concerned, words are very important. Dialogue is very important. And the fact that Prime Minister Oli telephoned Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi on the occasion of our Independence Day, they had a conversation which included, by the way, India's election to the Security Council, the actions on COVID that the two countries are taking. You know, it is important that these dialogues take place. And after that, we have this highest level possible dialogue at the level of the embassy and the foreign ministry, i.e. at the Kathmandu level, which is possible, which reviews the entire gamut. So this itself is perhaps the biggest takeaway. Frank, give me a second to just tell you that even while we are talking about all the southward bound movements in terms of political and diplomatic relations with Nepal, normal things have continued. Trade has continued. Development partnership projects have continued. In fact, the Indian Embassy signed a project proposal with the Nepalese government for sanitation project in the Pashupatinath temple complex. So normal things have continued. Humanitarian things have gone on. Our assistance to Nepal on COVID has gone on. And it's particularly important that these two countries, which share the widest possible set of relations at the level of the people, at the level of the economies, and at society's general level, that those things continue. The song and dance, and I'm using these words deliberately, of diplomacy continues. It must be set in order, because these are very important paradigm-setting institutional arrangements. And when they don't work very well, they tend to have an impact on the other. So I believe that these contacts, these meetings have been very good. but these meetings have to be met with real action. And in that sense, it is my considered belief that the ball is in the Nepalese court. They need to take some concrete action to be able to bring right, or to, in some senses, make the entire business of the India-Nepal relations come back to a proper, even keel, which benefits the people of the two countries.
Absolutely. I think very aptly and very rightly said there. And I think you put it all in perspective for us. Let me bring in TP Singh into the picture now. So what are the kind of development projects that India is assisting Nepal with? And how has India helped Nepal in the past as well?
Yeah, the kind of project India is executing in Nepal, it's a various kind of, all kind of projects are there. So firstly, I will talk about the infrastructural project here. So the main focus is on the connectivity here. So India is building the roads, the railway lines, and so here I will mention this. China is also making this trans-Himalayan railway and connecting Nepal with China. So here now India is also focused on building this Raxaul-Kathmandu railway line on priority basis. The work has started. And now the one problem with India has been that India has been accused that the problem gets delayed. So the completion of the project within the stipulated time has been the main challenge. And it is because of that many mechanism has been created. And this meeting which happened on Monday, it was also in that background to review the progress of the project so that at the stipulated time the project is completed. Here I will refer to the Motihari and Motihari Amlekganj pipeline. So it has been completed before its schedule. Yeah. So it has been an important achievement, and this shows the focus of the government and the priority given to the, instead of coming up with the new project, the objective should be the completion of the project within the stipulated time. So this has been the major achievement. Before the stipulated time, it has been completed, inaugurated, it has been operationalized. So, and there has many other projects, the projects you talked about. So we have the hydropower projects. Pancheshwar has been discussed on Monday. So Pancheshwar, it is continuing for many years. So Pancheshwar hydro project is there. Many hydropower projects are there. Irrigation projects are there. And another is the projects related to power. So energy trade, yeah. India and Bhutan, they have very beneficial energy trade, and in fact, the main foreign exchange earner for Bhutan is their Chukha hydropower project. So a large portion of their hydropower they are exporting to India. So they are making lot of money. The Bhutan government is doing it. Same kind of thing happened with Nepal also, because Nepal has tremendous hydropower potential and it has not been exploited here. Even Nepal is having the power shortage problem. The Nepal, which can be the power surplus, because of the non-implementation of the project, the completion of the project, they are having the acute shortage of power. So India has fixed that very soon they will be importing 600 megawatt of power from Nepal, but that will happen in the future. So hydropower projects are another in pipeline, and the irrigation projects, many barrages have been made by India, that is irrigating the land in Nepal, also irrigating land in India also. So so those are the projects, and so we have all kind of projects development. But here we can refer this integrated checkpost here. So 4 checkposts has to be created by India. So 2 Birganj and Viratnagar has been operationalized, has been inaugurated, but 2 more has to be completed. So so these are important projects. Right. And then high impact community development projects that is also being undertaken. So the all kind of project which is benefiting the Nepali community, which is benefiting the Nepal industry. So all kind of projects has been undertaken by the government of India, and right. Government of India is investing a lot in these projects.
Sure. Okay. So wide array of projects like the professor has already mentioned. So Shakti Sinha, this issue, you know, every time we talk about the neighborhood, every time we talk about India assisting our neighbors and projects, this issue of timely delivery keeps coming up. Even Nepal has had this similar kind of a problem. How do we improve on that? What do we do? And have there any assurances been given in this, 8th OSM?
Very good question, Frank, and I'm glad you raised it. Professor just mentioned Pancheshwar. I was there in Kathmandu in 1996 January. Pranab Mukherjee was a foreign minister. When we discussed Pancheshwar for the first time and came to an agreement, Mr. Deoba was the prime minister. This is 1996. We and Nepal are still negotiating the water use or the Mahakali or the Sharda as we call it today. Now, I'm not saying India is to blame for that. The fact is that we have not been able to make progress when Mahakali's potential is at least 5,000 megawatts. Arun 3, finally, we have done the financial closure in the month of May. It's a 900 megawatt project. The loan amount is about 6,500 crores, Indian crore, plus equity, so $1 billion plus in it. That again started 2008, is being done now. Now, these two I'm mentioning because power projects is a serious problem. It does get delayed, but not so much. 23 years, 24 years is a bit too much. One of the major problems is, with Ambassador Manjeev very rightly mentioned, is in doing projects in Nepal. If you look at the Hulaki, the Rajmarg, the East-West Postal Road, look at the Jogbani Biratnagar railway line, look at the other projects, the biggest problem is land. Now, we give them money, maybe our contractors or their contractors jointly do it, but the land has to be made available. And in Nepal, the process of getting land is difficult. Various issues involved. I don't want to burn fingers. There are capacity issues involved, there are legal issues involved. And to some extent, there are weaknesses on our side also, because our ability historically to deal with land and development issues is not very strong. It has changed for the better, and I'm not saying it because Manjeev is sitting here. It has dramatically changed for the better in the last few years. But the fact remains that we have to, one strengthen our capacities to deal with these issues. Because land, people who own the land, people who rent the land, people who labor on the land. So you must look after all the project affected persons. Nepali law only looks at the title holder. In any case, title holders again have problems. Once where the road is built, I'm very happy, land price goes up. Railway line is built, that I'm happy because the prices won't go up unless it's the other station. They're very, but when the Nepalese government does a project with the World Bank or ADB, and they have these rigid guidelines, these people do really ramp up their performance and deliver. So I think we improve our capacity and do a bit of tough love with the Nepalese government. Okay, listen, land you have to provide for. We ask for 90% land in advance. This is difficult for us. On a World Bank project, they provide 100% of land before $1 moves. In other words, there are capacity issues on the Nepali side. I don't blame them for it. Let's work with them. And ourselves also, we have improved. And now project implementation has really changed for the better. I've seen it in Afghanistan. I've seen it in Nepal. It has changed for the better. But we still have to sort out our internal problems. Financial closure. Average bureaucrat like me will not know how to do financial closure. We must get in the professionals at the right time to do proper DPRs, which look at the terrain. The Rajmarg is the classic case, but the terrain was a problematic thing, and some shortcuts were done by Indian contractors, to be frank, which are led to problems for the government of India. So I think we need to ramp up our capacities to do better projects by doing preparatory work. If you do your preparatory work a little longer, the project is executed much faster, actually. When you want to start your project, that is tensions involved.
Just a quick follow-up question before I go to Manjeev Puri, on this issue of land acquisition. We are all familiar with the land acquisition and, how painstaking it is in India. And since you've been associated with the system here as well, I must ask you this. Is it more problematic in Nepal?
It is more complicated in Nepal for the simple reason we have more litigations, fine. There, the process of fixing a price through the CDC is not a very transparent process. And for the same project, they have awarded different rates to different people.
Right.
That's a matter of rent-seeking behavior. But in India, it is also possible. If you go to Goa, and Goa University was acquired by us in 3 months flat, they went to the courts, nothing happened because we did our homework properly. So it is possible to do it. India has become increasingly more difficult now because land prices have gone up. 30 or 20 years ago, we could acquire land with our left hand. because people were very happy land will be acquired. Today they see the potential, not today. They know if the land is acquired, area will develop, my price will go up 5 times. He's already programming 5 times into his imputed land value, which today does not exist. So there are different tensions. Paperwork is an issue there. Paperwork is a serious issue in Nepal.
Okay, taking the discussion forward now, talking about some of these concerns, talking about how there are several issues, at hand, Ambassador. So, how can we address some of these concerns? What needs to be done? And apart from, timely delivery, are there any other concerns really as far as these developmental projects are concerned?
Frank, first of all, I want to thank both Mr. T.P. Singh as well as Mr. Shakti Sinha for mentioning the Amlekhganj pipeline, and please allow me to take a bow. I was ambassador when we started the project, and I had the privilege of being there when the virtual inauguration took place nearly 6-8 months ahead of schedule. Let me tell you what we did with the land issue. There was a major problem because, remember, the Terai is very densely populated, and therefore the issues of land acquisition are real issues of land acquisition. And of course, there is bureaucratic lethargy, there is political unwillingness to be able to take unpalatable decisions. We know them all. So what did we do? Finally, we said we need to put this pipeline underground. And to put it underground, a technological solution had to be found. Now, you can't find such technological solution with, let's say, a road project. And you can't find it with so many other things. But lots of use of modern technology was put into place for the pipeline project. And so I'm afraid the answer somewhat lies in a little bit more financial investment, much more technology, and much more management-oriented.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you, what are the big issues that some of the issues are such that, you don't really know how to address them because they are the same kind of issues which we used to face in India with development projects many, many years back, till we became used to trying to work fast delivery. One is land. The other is these financial closures and stuff like that. The third is some of the elements of work in Nepal, for example, this railway line, is extremely difficult to do technologically. It's not easy. Neither is it easy for our friends from China. It's very, very difficult. These are young, cold mountains. Building these railway tracks is not easy. Otherwise, let me tell you, the British would have done it. But these technological challenges have to be overcome. We have this land acquisition. We also have another set of problems that our contractors, especially the best contractors in India, in the 1970s and 80s, they used to go to Nepal. Now they don't find it worth their while. So you end up with contractors who are kind of middling. They tend to have their own issues. They have issues back home in India, which tend to get offloaded there. They tend to have partnerships with people in Nepal. They are just a front bidding for the contract for the sake of the paper. The people in Nepal don't have the abilities to deliver, but they've entered into this contract. It's a bit of a complex issue. Let me tell you, the same complex issues face even the Chinese. Even they have the similar sets of problems in Nepal. And so does the World Bank and the ADB. Their projects are not running anywhere. You ask them, they have the same set of problems. Nepal is a very difficult country because it's a country which has not yet embraced fully the idea of development and the idea of going all out for growth. Remember, the polity there also, while it's very good to talk about social justice, very good to talk about inclusion, Nepal is a changing society with about 25% of the Nepalese population overseas, whether working in the Gulf or in the United States or in Europe. The ideas and aspirations of the country are changing, but its politics continues to be kind of rooted in an era which is sort of bygone. Now, in these kind of circumstances, you run into a number of sets of issues which need to be always overcome. And in that sense, Nepal is quite different even from other countries in South Asia, including Afghanistan or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka, where the exposure to globalization is longer, older, and where this embrace of development is of a far greater order. So we have to work hard. We need to pull up, let me say, our socks, both in terms of the financial element, the technological and the managerial aspects which are required. And I believe that the MEA, our development partnership wing, the territorial division dealing with it at the highest level of the Honorable Minister and others, they remain engaged with us. And it is each of these particular things which gives us the kind of necessary push to be able to take things forward, because for many, many years, actually nothing happened. Before I end, let me draw your attention to some of the other huge things which happened in the last few years. Not only the Zamleganj pipeline, our own 3 projects, for which the financial closure Mr. Sinha mentioned happened in May, but the project's work started more than a year back. It's now more than 20% complete. This is the largest project taking place in Nepal, and when it comes on steam, not only will it alter the electricity dynamic of Nepal, but actually have an impact on its economy. That's the nature of this project. 2 integrated checkpoints which have been done.
Absolutely. All right. Taking the discussion forward and widening the scope of the discussion a little bit now. So, TP Singh, what is the level of economic cooperation between the 2 countries and how has it developed?
Yeah, as we say here while talking about this India-Nepal relation, so usually we refer to roti-beti relation. So here roti refers to all the economic cooperation, all the economic issues, and the beti refers to the cultural and civilizational ties, the family relation. In fact, my ancestral village is on the Nepal border. So personally, I've seen what it is an integrated market here, and it is the border is open. So the local people, the local community, they don't feel that what is India, what is Nepal. Marketing purpose, Indians go to Nepal, Nepalis come to India. So it is an integrated market. Coming to the economic cooperation there. So because of it's obvious that India is the largest trading partner of Nepal. In 2018-19, they had $8.27 billion bilateral. And this was the largest trade of Nepal with any country. The trade imbalance is in favor of India, and this issue has to be addressed here because the Indian export to Nepal was $7.7 billion here. So this trade surplus is usually in favor of India. So this issue has to be addressed by the government of India and Nepal together, because this kind of imbalanced trade cannot continue in the future as we are having the problem with China. So the next thing is that the issue of remittances. We have 8 million Nepalese living and working in India, and on the other hand, we have 600,000 Indians living and working in Nepal. So remittances are going from Nepal to India and India to Nepal. So the remittances is another issue that's binding 2 economies together, binding 2 nations together. And then for energy needs, Nepal is, as we all know, is dependent upon India, and this Motihari and this Amleganj, this pipeline is part of that. And even in the power also, we are dependent upon each other. Right now we are exporting, but in future we will be importing from Nepal when they will have surplus power production. And the investment there, India is the largest investor in Nepal. The 30%, more than 30% of foreign direct investment in Nepal is coming from India. More than 150 Indian companies are working in Nepal. So this, from investment point of view also, this economic cooperation between these 2 countries are very closer to each other. So trade, commerce, business, investment, remittances, there are many issues which bring the Nepal and India together, and they are so much intertwined with each other that despite the political effort, these 2 economies can't be separated.
Right. Okay. Points taken. Now let me bring in another aspect as well. Shakti Sinha, there have been irritants really as far as the bilateral relationship of late is concerned. Is it now time to, put that on the back burner and focus on the positives? There was the phone call, of course, that Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli made to the Indian Prime Minister Modi. So is it now time to build on these positives?
One good thing you will see is that in the last 3-4 months, while there have been a lot of strong statements coming out of Kathmandu, Delhi has been extremely, extremely restrained in its behavior. Absolutely restrained. So in that sense, we have been very, very clear. We understand the irritants are there. We don't want to raise a controversy. So we have shown the path that it is possible. And we'll not get into the details of the domestic Nepalese reasons for all these controversies and other stuff. But I think through this meeting, Prime Minister Oli's call, it's clear that in the long run, you understand that you have to live with India. And India, in any case, even China, if you look at, there is no serious Chinese project in Nepal. Let us be very clear. The railway line has been talked about, will remain talked about. Economically, it makes no sense unless the railway line comes to India. Goods meant for India. It won't make sense. So we have to work together. Arun is a good thing, and I'm happy that the project work was started with equity. Normally, we wait for the debt to happen. Arun, they started with equity itself. It's a rare case, a very good example. But we actually have to proactively move on a number of these projects, including sorting out Pancheshwar. If you agree on the water sharing of the Sharda, and it is not very difficult to do so, we have to be a little more realistic. It is possible to move on Pancheshwar. To move on Pancheshwar and complete these projects, the message you're sending is, we are happy to be engaged with you. We are not going to be put off by these controversies. And I think that is a very, very positive step. Trade is an issue which they raise every now and then. Once there's a conference in Kathmandu and they said trade deficit is very big. I said, you are right. But do you know that 70% of Nepalese exports come to India? Even if it becomes 100%, the trade deficit won't change. Why? You're importing petroleum from India. You're importing steel from India, machinery from India. Where else will you get it from? So, you have to be a little gentle about it. But the fact remains that there's nothing you can do about certain things. Where you can do is on these projects and on political engagement. I think the way forward should be positive.
Talking about the way forward, very quick closing comments from all my panelists with the best way forward in 30 seconds each, starting first with you, Ambassador.
Frank, I am glad that there are attempts now at thawing the diplomatic ice. I see this positively, but I am very firmly convinced that you need to follow this up with real action. Pancheshwar, of course, is the dream, but it's a long way off. But let us look at concrete projects, concrete things, which will tend to take it forward. And let us not underestimate in all of this that there are political angles, because that sets the ecosystem under which things operate. And for that, I sincerely believe the ball is in the Nepalese court. As Mr. Sinha says, India has been very mature, very restrained in what they've said and what we've done. But the Nepalese need to understand that their interest lies in being able to leverage a positive relationship with India. And this is something that is an important element. The special relationship, whether you call it that or not, has got to be maintained and should be maintained. And I believe that is what would be good for the polity of Nepal, the society, the economy, and of course, certainly for India, because this is a situation where the two people come together. And what we can do, it can only be win-win for both sides. And we must work.
Absolutely. TP Singh.
Yeah, we have this civilizational and cultural ties with Nepal, and it should be strengthened. And here we have already signed this twinning cities there. So for Hinduism, the Vishwanath and the Pashupatinath, Varanasi and Kathmandu twin cities. And then another twinning is the Buddhism. They have brought Bodh Gaya and Lumbini together. That is another. And then we have third one, twinning this Ayodhya and Hinduism. Yeah, this again Hinduism, the Ayodhya and Janakpur. So this people-to-people relations should be already excellent, and it should be strengthened further. And we have also to be sensitive towards our small neighbors here.
Okay, all right. And Shakti Sinha, close the show for us with your quick concluding remark.
Very quickly, I think Manjeev is absolutely right. The ball is on the other side. We have shown our restraint. We have shown our willingness to accommodate. Yes, we should be sensitive. I completely agree. Both sides have made mistakes in the past. Absolutely, no point hiding from it. But we can't dwell in the past. We are prepared to look forward. Let's look forward to work together, because it is the interest of the people of both sides that we work together. And as, in that sense, relatively the smaller country, the stakes are much higher for Nepal in that sense. And therefore, it makes sense for us also to be a little more large-hearted. I'm fine with that.
Okay, all right. On that note, then, I'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. What's coming out of this discussion is that there have been irritants in the bilateral relationship of late, but the high-level 8th Oversight Mechanism meeting is a positive development. It is important to keep the dance and song of diplomacy going. The meeting has come at an opportune time, one that both nations can build on. There are concerns as far as developmental projects are concerned but we have to stay focused, push through, and get them done. They will benefit both nations in the long run. India and Nepal have made mistakes. Let's not dwell on the past, but look forward with a positive mindset. With that, it's a wrap. See you again next time.